This is a platform that consolidates both shared lodging listings and traditional lodging listings. That is, it consolidates listings that you might find on Airbnb, which involves people renting from different property owners, and listings that you might find on Travelocity or Trivago, which are traditional hotels, into one platform where you can search for any criteria, and both types of lodging will show up. And so for our YourSpace prototype, we pretended to use a usage scenario that we put our primary persona, Thomas McFerguson, into. Now, Thomas McFerguson is a very old man. He's about 67. He's a priest, and he's not very good with technology at all. In fact, when he books lodging, he usually likes to call into hotels and do it that way. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to put Thomas in the situation where he's using our platform to book lodging because he needs to go visit his grandson at UVA. And so he needs to check in on November 15, 2018. Today is November 13, 2018. He needs to check out of his hotel in Charlottesville on November 23rd, 2018. And he's only booking for himself. And so based on those criteria, he is going to reach the home page of YourSpace and select his destination as Charlottesville, Virginia, which is where UVA is. He sees that today is the 13th based on that highlighted date, but he needs to check in on the 15th. And so he clicks on the 15th. He needs to check out on the 23rd, and so he clicks on that date. And since he's only booking for himself, he needs to indicate that there's one adult staying at wherever he selects. And so he's redirected to the search results page for his criteria. Now, Thomas has a few other restrictions that he has on where he can stay. For one, he has a budget of $100 per night or less to spend on lodging. And so we can see a very clear price filter up here where we can indicate that we only have $100 or less to spend on lodging, and it'll show you all the listings that are $100 or less per night. Now, as a rule of thumb, Thomas also likes to stay in spaces that are generally rated as about 3 stars or more. And so there's a minimum rating filter here that he can use to filter out those listings as well. So we see everything here is 3 stars or less, or 3 stars or more, rather. Now, let's say for some reason that Thomas can't figure out how to filter out ratings so that he finds the ones that are 2 miles from the city center or less. And so at this point, he can use Max the Virtual Agent. And Max the Virtual Agent is basically a chat box that helps people, given the criteria that they have for certain listings, to find the page that gives them the listings that fit their criteria. And so how Max works is he'll say hi, and the user will type in the criteria they have, for their listings. So Thomas is going to say that he wants to find listings within 2 miles of Charlottesville, Virginia, in a price range of $100 per night. And so Max will immediately give him a link to these search results. And all Thomas needs to do is click on this link. And so he's redirected to a page that gives him the price range just $100 or less, gives him a minimum rating of 3 stars, and gives listings that are within 2 miles of the city center of Charlottesville. And so Thomas needs to do a few more steps. He usually likes spaces that are clean and well maintained. And so we can filter out listings that are clean and well maintained by using our cleanliness filter over here. And this uses user ratings of people who have stayed at this space and basically indicates the general consensus on whether the space is clean or not. And so we can see that there are cleanliness ratings here. There's a lot of spaces that are 4 stars, 4.5 stars in terms of cleanliness. And so Thomas has a few more restrictions in terms of amenities that he needs to indicate. He wants to find listings that have AC for health reasons. He also usually likes to have breakfast and free Wi-Fi at any place he stays. And so now we've filtered out all of these listings by the fact that they have AC, breakfast, and free Wi-Fi. And so at this point, Thomas remembers he called his grandson the other day, and his grandson said, "Grandpa, you should really try out this new thing called Airbnb. You get to rent out spaces from property owners, and it could be a cheaper and even more homely option for you." But this conflicts with Thomas's existing opinion of, the fact that Hilton is his favorite hotel chain of all time. Anytime that Thomas has stayed at Hilton in the past, he's had an impeccable experience. And so now he's going to examine both types of listings just for kicks. And so he's going to find that there's this apartment that he can rent from Airbnb called Popsicle Kitchen Studio in Belmont. And it seems to fit most of his criteria. And so he can click, and it leads him to the individual page of this listing. From here, he can look at the description of the property. He can look at what amenities it has. He can look at the ratings for each of our categories. We have an overall category, which is generally how people who stayed at the space found their experience. We have a cleanliness category, as we explained earlier. We have a service category, which indicates how the service at the property was. And we have a value for money category indicating how much value people who stayed there got out of the money that they paid. And so we can see these ratings by just clicking on that tab. We can also see the reviews for this property. And so there's a lot of reviews, and Thomas thinks, oh, this is pretty overwhelming. I don't know what to draw from these reviews. So we can go to this review here, and that is the most helpful review that people found based on this rating down here. And that will be placed under the pictures so as to give people the general gist of what people who have already stayed at this property think of it. And so Thomas sees that, oh, yeah, most people love it. It has lots of amenities, and the host is pretty nice. So I might actually consider it. And so Thomas is going to save this listing so that he can look at it later on another page. And so we've saved the listing, and we can go back to the search results. And now we're back at the search results. And Thomas also wants to look at the Hilton Hotel because, as we previously mentioned, it's his favorite hotel chain. So we're going to click on that, and we can look at the description. We can look at the amenities. We can look at the ratings. And we can look at the reviews. And what Thomas will notice from these reviews is that even though the price is relatively low for what he saw on the search results page, it seems that people are saying that the Hilton is criminally underrated. People have rated it lower than it should be rated, and things of that nature. And so Thomas is going to say, hey, these reviews are already leaning the way that I like them to, so we're going to save the listing, and we're going to look at it later. And so we're going to go back to the search results, and we're going to navigate to the saved listings page from there. So the button to lead Thomas to the saved listings page is right up here. We're going to click on that. And so, as we expected, the Popsicle Kitchen Studio in Belmont and the Hilton Hotel in Charlottesville both show up on this page. Now, this page is structured exactly like the search results page so that you can filter how many ever favorited listings you have by certain criteria. And so let's say that Thomas wants to figure out which listing has the most value for money. And so we can do that by filtering for the value of money ratings. And so we can see here that the Popsicle Kitchen Studio in Belmont has 4.5 out of 5 stars for value for money, whereas the Hilton has 4 out of 5 stars. And so Thomas is like, well, that's what I'm going to decide. I'm going to build the Popsicle Kitchen Studio in Belmont because it gives me the most value for my money. And so he can go there, and he can click on book space, and it'll redirect him to the site where he can book the space, so as not to steal any revenue from certain businesses like Airbnb, Travelocity, and Trivago. And so it's an easy process. It should be done within 10 to 15 minutes because of all the consolidated listings. And Thomas should have a great time with his grandson in Charlottesville.